time. So can you all share a bit about your background and what motivated you guys to pursue a career in HemeOnc? And we can start like telling the
Okay, I guess I'll go first. Uh, Hi, everyone. I'm Lekha Yadukumar. I'm currently a third year resident at the Right Center. It's in Scranton, and we're a community program here. I'm originally from India. I completed my medical school back in India and came here. So I'm an IMG as well. Um, and what interested me in oncology. So during medical school, I got to listen to Mary Claire King speak, which was the first time I kind of developed an interest in this field. And probably along the way, I saw the kind of relationships my mentors had with their patients, and that's something I saw for myself. As well as the complexity of the field in itself. Yeah, so these were the aspects that drew me to the field.
nice. Dr. Patel, Dr. Haddad.
Yes. Hi. Hi, everyone. Well, first of all, thank you, Tulsi, and thank you, Supriya, for hosting, this session. My name is Sagar Patel. I'm a PGY3 Chief Resident here at Landmark Medical Center in Rhode Island. And I'm also originally from India. I am an international medical graduate as well. So my journey to HemeOnc, actually that started in, during step one preparation. The first time immunology captivated me. I think in 2018 there was the first time where there was a mention of immunotherapy in USMLE material. So that kind of started my interest, and then I stumbled upon Siddharth Mukherjee's work, Emperor of All Maladies, History of Cancer. So a huge fan of Sid Mukherjee and his contemporary writers. So after that, coming to residency, the patient interaction, the complexity of the science, and the advancements. There are so many fascinating aspects, and I mean the amount of vulnerability you see in cancer patients. You feel like being there for them, and just try to help them out in whatever capacity you can. So all these factors led me to pursue HemeOnc.
Okay, nice. That's very inspiring. Dr. Haddad.
Hi, everybody. My name is Stephanie Haddad. I'm down the street from Sagar. I'm one of the third year residents on PGY3 over at Brown University Kent Hospital program, which is the community hospital of Brown University. So it's kind of like their community program. So, but it's like a half community, half academic kind of program. I'm originally from Massachusetts. I graduated from Holy Cross for undergrad. I went to West Virginia for medical school. I'm actually a DO. I graduated from the West Virginia School of Osteopathic Medicine in 2021. And I matched up here, and then now I'm pursuing fellowship in hematology oncology. I'll be at UT San Antonio in July starting. And most of my research has been focused on breast onc and breast research. Which I first originally started doing after I graduated from undergrad. I was a biochemistry, biology major. I honestly really loved science and medicine. I had done a lot more bench research before I went to medical school, and I had a patent with WPI and a lot of other schools in the area for like cancer research and some of the like bio companies that worked around us. And I figured I wanted to do more patient care, which is when I became a clinical research coordinator at Mass General. And I did in breast onc, and that's kind of where I fell in love with it. My attendings were phenomenal. I worked with phenomenal individuals who are still my mentors today, Dr. Bardia, Dr. Spring, Dr. Moy, all really amazing breast oncologists that still work there. Dr. Bardia is actually over at UCLA now, but they were all phenomenal, really inspired me to go to medical school. I realized, their interest in research as well as like their patient care and continuity of care was really incredible. So I went to medical school. Throughout medical school, I really liked HemeOnc still, really loved breast onc, still kind of did research I had a lot of personal experiences, not only in undergrad, but also in, not only in medical school, but also as like a resident. My niece had leukemia. She got CAR T cell therapy. My brother currently has stage 4 gastric esophageal cancer. So I really, truly kind of understood both sides of the exam table in a very interesting way, which I never thought in a million years I'd have to experience that. And so I think that pushed me, like people run away from fire, I kind of run towards it. So I kind of ran more towards the fire, and that's what additionally inspired me to do HemeOnc, because I really have a very unique perspective, I guess, on how it kind of is on both sides. And as I said, I really want to do clinical research, and that's kind of towards the field. So.
Wow, that's really motivating, Dr. Haddad. Okay, so let's jump to next question. So as we're approaching the interview season, we have to apply in the June. So what were your approaches for the application process for the HemeOnc fellowship? So were you like doing any specific strategies that you found really helpful throughout the process? Like, can you share with us?
I can go first if you want. I don't know, and I can't speak to the IMGs. You guys are phenomenal, and you do a lot of work additional. I feel like what us DOs and MDs do for like the US side. So please, like, definitely share your experience, because I don't know definitely as much about that at all. But I know from like, I want to say right now where it's kind of the critical period of like, you're kind of in the in between because ARIS hasn't opened yet for the next season. When I was in medical school, they were very, very good about kind of structuring us to make sure we were ready to apply for residency. And I kind of implemented that here in residency, because there wasn't really any way to, and no one held your hand and was like, okay, this is the date you're doing this is the date. So I kind of held myself accountable. And so I literally just printed out all the dates of everything that was happening. I posted it on my wall, and I would never miss a date. And I actually reminded all my co-residents, and they never missed a date because of me. And so now, like during this time period, I honestly started my personal statement already, and I started my CV in getting everything ready, because when ARIS opened up, I was actually on service for 2 months in a row, and I was in ICU. It made it so much easier for me to just copy and paste whatever I had already in my CV, and my personal statement was actually already done because I had already, sent it to whoever I need to send it. Already had all my letters of recon, all of that kind of stuff. So by the time it opened up in like June, July, I think it's June, I pretty much had everything all set. I just need to copy and paste and then read it over several times. That's always my advice for like the incoming, people there. It's never too early to be prepared, because if you have a month that's, not too bad in April or May, it's better than trying to rush at the last minute. Because I had some friends actually that didn't even submit on time and things like that because they weren't prepared. They didn't realize how quick it would come, especially in the middle of service. So I always tell people to kind of do that and just make sure you have your letters of rec in place. It's not bad if you have to remind your attendings multiple times, because they are just so busy. So you're not being weird, you're not being annoying or anything like that. So, I mean, don't text them every single day, but like maybe every, if you need to remind them once a week or remind them every 2 weeks. I tried to give them at least like 6 months, I think, so that they had a pretty good window of when they needed to send it. And then I had them make sure that it was in by then. So, and I found that was really helpful. So I think those are my tips for kind of this in-between period, is to make sure you're prepared, because it comes a lot quicker than you think it is. And then next thing you know, you're like submitting it. So it gives you enough time to like look over your application again. That doesn't matter if you're an MD or DO. Like I wish I could have a magic formula to tell you what I did as a DO. There wasn't much. I had mainly MD mentors. I will say that. I didn't have a lot of DO mentors, but that didn't matter, because it kind of felt like I was, pretty much treated all the same. Maybe there might have been a difference in the interview season, but I kind of didn't really make sure that was a difference at all. It just kind of, they knew that I was a DO going into it. So I hope that helps. I'll stop talking now.
For sure. Okay. Dr. Yadukumar, any tips from your side?
Sure. I 100% agree with Stephanie about the dates and starting to work on your personal statement and letter of recommendation around this time, which I unfortunately did not do. So probably learned it the hard way. So for me, around this time, what I was working on was a little background to my story is that it was towards the end of my second year or middle of my second year was when I started actively working on research and setting deadlines for myself. So I ensure that I'd submitted at least 5 abstracts to ASCO. I mean, obviously, 2 of me being the first author and kind of collaborating with others. So I continued this. I worked on other conferences where I could submit my abstract, so just so that I could add it to my CV. Apart from that, I did an away elective that I'd worked on previously, which happened in April. So if any of you have your electives coming up, just work extremely hard, ensure that you identify the people who are going to be writing your letters. And within your program as well, ensure that you have more than the 4 letters that you need so that you can mix and match as to where you're sending your letters to. Say you work at the VA and you know where to use your VA attendings letter at. Apart from that, yeah, so work on your personal statement. I think that's the hardest. So you need to introspect and look into what brought you here and what you want to do. Um, and um, and also attend ASCO. That's what I did last year. I wasn't presenting anything, but ensured that I attended ASCO. It was definitely it was nerve-wracking because the place is like Disneyland. There's so much going on, but know exactly what goals you've set for yourself. That is to network. At the least, you'll get a perspective on how things are and what people are looking for. So these are my advices. I think one last thing is to also reach out to contacts. The different kinds of contacts, right? There are the ones that you need to collaborate with, and these are the ones who might help you help get you an interview. And there are other contacts that might just give you advice on, how are you going to respond to that? What do I want to do in 5 years when you just have 4 or 8 weeks of HemeOnc experience, right? So work on that. I think that's it from my
Perfect.
end.
Thank you. Dr. Patel, finally.
Yes, Supriya. So you can call me Sagar. So, I mean, my preparation actually started when I realized, in the intern year itself that, I'm going for HemeOnc. And I think for most of the people in our group, that will be true. The moment you decide that you want to pursue HemeOnc, your preparation should start from that day. Whether arranging away elective, your own institution, finding your own institutional mentors, and creating your own unique path that will help you. So in terms of like specific components of application, the first thing that I focused personally was on personal statement. It required a lot of introspection. I used to go to a nearest state park, sit there for 2, 3 hours, because it's such an important component of your application. It's going to reflect, who you are and how motivated you are to pursue HemeOnc. So I emphasized a lot on my personal statement. Next thing is CV. So the components of CV. Uh, you'll be including your, within your institutional rotations, your away electives, your research work. So how do you want to compartmentalize everything? So have an idea about that. Uh, and CV also, you start building your CV from year one, and you continue to build on that as you get clinical experience and you do your research. So that helped. And being from a community program, planning away elective, that's an important aspect. So personally for me, the way I approach this, so during first year of residency, I mainly focused on doing rotation at my home institution because we have a community, center, and my focus was to learn basic hematology first, and then to gain more exposure in specifics like malignant hematology. I have applied for a way elective at Brown University, and then subsequently solid oncology I pursued. And I mean, it depends on your program as well, how supportive they are, and sometimes they are supportive, but if you have in-house support or attendings who are already doing malignant heme, solid onc, then it doesn't make sense to go to other institutions, right? So figuring that out is an important aspect. Having mentors, who would write you letter of recommendations. So from intern year, I think you identify your hematology oncology mentor and also internal medicine mentor in my case. So I had like two mentors. And you reach out to your seniors for any potential projects. I mean, for me personally, building research profile was like a uphill task because I didn't have enough research exposure in undergrad. So like I started from scratch, writing, case reports, designing graphical abstract, whatever opportunity you get, you latch on them and you kind of build on it. And uh, specifically, I would say, keeping a checklist, as Stephanie and Lekha mentioned, being organized is one of the most important aspect. Respecting the timeline and in general, because you'll have a lot of things going on when you'll be a second year, your clinical obligations, your scholarly research activities, and simultaneously this fellowship application. So you'll have to kind of balance everything out. Yeah, so I think what else? Fellowship application. I mean, yeah, you just see the ERAS timeline and try to, accordingly plan things so that you are prepared before the deadline, or at least 1 week before the deadline. And so I did one unique thing for my letter writers. uh, I gave them. I used to make a doc file because sometimes they don't remember specific circumstances or situations that you have worked under that attending. Like I had a letter from my ICU attending, and there were quite a few standout moments where I thought that I did well. So when you point those instances out, they'll be more confident in writing your letter, and that will better portray who you really are, and that will give the letter reader confidence about you during the interview trail, and you'll get comments, remarks about that. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good point. They tend to forget because there are lots of people coming for the rotations,
Right.
for the ICU. Yeah, that's a nice point. So as we're talking about the research, so I have this question. I think most of us have this question who is applying this year. So how many publications would you recommend having before applying to HemeOnc? So is it like what kind of research we need to do? Is it have to be meta-analysis or systemic review, or case reports or abstracts are fine? Or do we need to be first author? That's for sure. Or it's fine if we can be like second or third author.
I mean, I can start. So, being someone who was not into research before starting residency, and then I realized, how fast-paced the HemeOnc specialty is. So, I mean, I personally focus towards cultivating skills of like, basics like interpreting data, seeing at abstracts from previous conferences like ASCO 2021, 2022, you see what kind of research residents did present there, or early career trainees did present there, and taking inspiration from that. So, I mean, at our level, the basic and like low hanging fruit would be case reports. You come across interesting case report, and the easiest conference to target is like the ACP conferences that happens at state level. So I mean, I submitted my first abstracts at Rhode Island ACP, and they have pretty average standards in terms of selecting the abstract because they want to promote scholarly activity. So you can start with that, and you can move to more sophisticated like retrospective analysis. And if you have any seniors, you reach out to them, you show them interest. If you have a particular research question, for an example, my first retrospective study was on breast cancer as well, because in our primary care clinic, we had a patient who came in for the first visit, and she was found to have like metastatic stage 4 breast cancer. So that, sparked a question that, what are the health-related disparities, especially in breast cancer, metastatic breast cancer, and we still need to emphasize on screening and everything. So my first project was on SEER database, and I was fortunate enough to have a few seniors who guided me and who involved me. Reaching out to people, formulating your own questions. And I don't think research is the only thing personally, because it depends where do you want to see yourself. If you are planning to be a physician scientist, then definitely you'll have to have a lot of research, a lot of original articles, publications, basic science, basic lab research as well. But I was someone who was aiming for community academic hybrid, program. So I tried to keep my research pertinent to what fascinated me, and I was able to do like 3 or 4 meaningful projects, and that has worked out for me.
Stephanie, any thoughts?
I echo what Sagar was saying. I think there. I don't ever think there's like a magic number to anything. I think it's all in context and it's all relative based on kind of what you want to do. I very much I want to be a clinical trialist and I want to be in breast onc and I want to be like, a clinician seeing patients in breast onc. And that's kind of, where I have seen myself for a long period of time. And so I like a lot of even my publications started when I was working, before I went to med school. So a lot of them were like data sets that I was doing. I was helping the HemeOnc doctors or the fellows in. And I kind of, got my name on a lot of things. But then as I was going, through med school, it's a little bit harder. But then afterwards, any sort of case reports, I would submit just like case reports, like 1 or 2 a year to make sure I had something. And most times they'd get accepted. And then in addition to that, I always had like 1 or 2 projects I was also doing that were research focused kind of on the side. And I work a lot with Brown University Lifespan Cancer Institute in Rhode Island. And I do most of my research with Dr. Graff, who's one of my big mentors over there, who's the director of breast onc. And so a lot of the projects I did were like, and it had to do with like data sets and things like that. And I had been very familiar with that because I was a clinical research coordinator because I kind of knew what was going on. So a lot of that kind of stuff really helped. It does take a lot of time though, and it's all in my free time and all stuff, like me writing a manuscript or me like writing even, I was the first author on a review of HER2 negative ERPR positive breast cancer. And so, that took a lot of time. And then I had, done a few other things, in the middle of that as well. So I wanted to do as much as I could because I knew I wanted to do academic. Having fellows and all that kind of stuff always helps because they always need somebody to help them with the data sets and to help them gather research and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of times you can take a project off of what they're doing and spin it off and even create a poster and submit it to something. And low-hanging fruit is always, ACP case reports. If you look at any major, conferences, a lot of times they take fellow or resident case reports, and you can easily submit something like that, or even like a small project or a review or a meta-analysis or something to be able to add that to your CV. But research isn't everything. They also want to see that you've done a lot of things. A lot of people don't know I used to be a semi-professional dancer. I was a ballroom dancer. I was collegiately competed. So like that was a huge part of my life before I went to med school and kind of what I did before then. And so like, it was funny. A lot of people asked me that in my interview before they even asked me about my research. So, and that was just a huge, pointed topic. I think I said I would teach like 10 people how to ballroom dance by the end of my interviews. Which I absolutely loved. It was a phenomenal part of my life. And I still, it was such a great experience. So it's just one part. And it very much depends on what you want to do. If you want to do mainly community focus, most of the time they're not going to want maybe as much. Also, some people don't want to do like any sort of clinical research and they want to do like healthcare disparities or things like that. And those are all very important, equally as amazing as clinical research. It's all very different types of research you want to do in the field. And it's kind of whatever you want to do. Don't pick something up if you don't want to do it because you're never going to finish it. Pick something up that you actually want to do and that you're interested in because you'll get to the end and they want to see the follow through. That's the most important part. They want to see the follow through. And even if you're not accepted yet, but you submitted a paper, you can still put it on your application. So anything that's submitted that's not fully accepted or anything, you can say in submission or just, under review, and it still counts on, on your application, which I think is really important. I had a few things, as I said, I did an undergrad too, I had published. And so I had put that on my application. I didn't put everything I had done in undergrad. I just did mainly, I had a few talks I actually had given to Harvard for this patent that I had done. So like I put those on. I don't think a lot of people put like undergrad things. I don't know, but things that are meaningful and that are important. Like I had gone to a mission trip when I was in med school, and so I had added that to my application under my experiences. So it's not necessarily all like research, but having those kinds of things are super important, and just having like a broad view. But having fellows and then having attendings that really are engaged in research helps, and you can just reach out to them and have some sort of mentorship, and any sort of ASCO mentors or anything like that can be able to further guide you in that. And low-hanging fruit are case reports always to submit to ACP or any of the other conferences, which are always helpful. But as I said, it depends on kind of the context of what you want to do. Community programs aren't going to be as much focused on that, while like university programs are going to be more heavily focused on that. And, I think I was kind of middle in the road. I don't think I had all the research in the world. Definitely not. I feel like there was several other people that had several other more research projects, but that's okay. It's just kind of what your application is. Your application's not going to be like the other person. So, and you kind of roll with it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Lekha, your thoughts on?
Sure. I completely agree with Sagar and Stephanie. I used a similar approach about case reports, submitting it to ACP, ATS, CHEST. These are all good conferences, and your abstract gets published if it's accepted. ESMO is another great conference. I come from so ours is a primary care program, and most of my rotations are in the clinic. So in my first year, and for the first 1.5 years, I had the opportunity to work on a lot of quality improvement projects. Although it isn't research, it's good. It's a good thing to have all these projects, which are meaningful and impactful in your clinic and for your patient population. So I was asked a lot of questions during my interview about this. I also ended up teaching myself how to use the SEER database and publishing a lot of studies on that because it's easy, especially with IRB approval and the duration it takes. So anyone who feels like you don't have ONC fellows in your program, just like I felt, and my community are community oncologists who are my attendings, as much as I love them and they were great mentors, they were not able to help me with research per se. So yes, so just keep an eye out for every opportunity you have and say yes to everything. Reach out to other fellows from other programs. I think ASCO is a great place where you can connect with these other fellows and start a research project. So you could do that as well.
Perfect. Thank you. So I have one more question. So just can you walk us through your experiences with preparation for the fellowship interviews, like how you prepared, what were the challenges and obstacles you have encountered during the application process? Just any tips and insights you can share with us.
So personally, for me, I mean, the way I prepared for interviews, I would create a master document for interviews, and there'll be common questions that everyone will know. Tell me about yourself. Tell us about how you got interested in HemeOnc. I would write down some points, not necessarily sentences, that you want to convey those thoughts to whoever is interviewing you, and basically, the interview process is pretty chilled out. I mean, it's not like residency. They really want to know you. I mean, half of the time we were talking about non-hematology oncology stuff. Like, they would ask me about my unique hobbies or experiences, hiking, trekking, and what I'm doing currently. Some questions about, of course, what you have published so far. And the unique thing that was in my application was my participation with state ACP. So a lot of questions on volunteer work and those sort of things. So it's pretty easygoing process. Interviews, they are not very intimidating or anything. You just try to convey your genuine interest that you have for HemeOnc, and it should be okay.
Lekha, your thoughts, any tips for us?
For For the interviews, right? So yes, I think know everything about your CV and everything in your personal statement. Um, they can ask you anything. When I spoke about Mary Claire King, they want to know more about her because some of my attendings didn't know about anything about breast cancer and what she did. I guess about her, not about breast cancer. My bad. Uh, just know everything. Prepare yourself for a lot of these behavioral questions. I wish I had prepared a lot more. And I would also say, uh, have that presence of mind, right? There are a lot of curveballs that get thrown at you during these interviews, and you need to be present to be able to answer them eloquently. I was also asked a lot about my hobbies. I won the ASCO cover page contest, which came about. It was the first time it happened, I guess. So they asked me to show them what I'd painted, and I would keep that around. And it was an abstract art, so I got to tell them about it. Um, so this is what I would say, like focus on your hobbies. They want to know you as a person. I was getting married and I spoke to them about that and I found out about how their weddings were. So it's okay to be normal and have little conversations uh, with your interviewers. I think that's what I have to say.
Yeah, thank you. Stephanie, your thoughts and your tips for us.
I completely agree about that. I kind of had a process I did every time before an interview the night before. I always, I had a list of questions that I had that I would prepare, and like things like, especially when people are like, tell me three things, like three words that would, describe you as a person, or how would somebody else describe you? Tell me about yourself. All those general questions. I also had the behavioral questions, asked, and why I would, say them and all that kind of stuff. I made sure I prepared for those. I would read through my CV like the night before, because I do agree they were chill. I don't think they were as chill as I anticipated them to be, because like I had a lot of friends that were applying, other specialties, and their interviews seemed a little bit different than mine. So, be mindful of that. Like every interview is different and every program interviews differently. So like, I mean, somebody asked me specific questions about a specific research, a specific population. I had very specific questions about different projects. So I always read my CV the night before. I had a few people ask me like trials I would consider doing myself, how I would take additional data sets from projects and kind of go from there. Those I think were a little bit more unique and a little bit more technical. I don't know if anybody asks, a lot of people ask them, but at the same time, just as much I was asked about my personality, things I like to do for fun. People ask me about my favorite color. I think at one point I was telling them how something about like my outfit that I was wearing for some event or something like that. So like, very also relaxed and things like that we talked about. I like to run, I like to work out, I do reform Pilates. At one point I was going to become Pilates instructor. So like a lot of stuff like that. That a lot of people, I talked with in my interviewers. So I also recommend always looking through the program and having specific questions that you have about the program. I have had interviews where all they do is just straight up, the first thing is to ask me questions what you want to know. And then I'm sitting, and then you're like, oh my God, I have to spend 30 minutes asking them a bunch of questions, so that's always a good thing to have, a list of questions that you'd ask. It can be specific enough, or it can, kind of whatever you want. Also genuine questions you have. I also, I'm trying to think. Oh, I do a very unique thing where whenever I have to interview with somebody, I always look them up in kind of the research they did, and where they went to med school, where they went to residency, all that kind of stuff. Because people like to talk about themselves, or like to feel like they have some sort of human connection, or at least I find that. So I'm from Massachusetts, I'm from Boston. I've lived here my entire life, and now I'm in Rhode Island. And so like, I had a lot of interviewers. I'm like, oh my gosh, I had no idea you were in Boston for like residency. Tell me, where did you live? I lived in the North End at one point when I was at Mass General, and it was a very human connection. And so like having, or if you're interviewing with someone that does like leukemia research and that's what you want to do, it's okay to convey that and be like, I saw that you just published something in, whatever journal, and I thought that was great. People love human connections. And I think that it's very under represented, and I made sure to always, you know, have something that I knew about the interviewer on my thing, because it also means that like you care, you know, you took the time, you looked up what they did and where their area of interest is, and that's great because that's what you want to do. And don't lie. Like people, I clearly want to do breast cancer. Like I wasn't gonna be like, I might do leukemia or lymphoma. Like they didn't, there was no shadow of doubt. Anybody was like, she wants to do breast cancer. Everybody knows. I work with Dr. Graff. She's like she's a huge breast cancer person. Like everybody knows that. So it's okay. Like, you know, I told them I've seen a huge range of like community practice. I've seen a huge range of, you know, big academic institutions. I've seen a big, you know, range of things. I also do clinic every week, so I see what it looks like in an outpatient facility versus an inpatient facility. I know I want to do breast onc and I want to be a clinical trialist. And they were kind of like, yeah, you have seen that. We do get that. Sure, I love that for you. Great. I'm glad you told me that. You know, and I said I wouldn't be opposed to anything different. Maybe if I found something I liked during fellowship, but I would most likely stay with a medical onc versus a heme focus, you know, and that was okay.
Right.
They were totally fine with me saying that. I think you also need to be like, you can't go and be like, I will only do this one thing, because I think there's a fine balance, but, you know, don't lie because they'll know.
Yeah.
And one thing is like, so I'm very unique where like I work with the Lifespan Cancer Institute a lot, but because I'm one of the community HemeOnc, one of the community Brown residency residents, I kind of sit in this interesting position because I kind of I have like it's a little bit different of like kind of a setup. I have it like almost like a separate contract almost. Anyway, so I kind of sit between these two things, and a lot of people would ask me how I split my time up between two programs like that, which I thought was kind of interesting. But I think that might have just been a unique question to me. So nothing's off limits. That's kind of my take-home message.
Nice, thank you. So me and Tulsi were discussing before this webinar. We are going to ask you this question. So what was the toughest questions you have faced during your interview, and how you managed to answer that or escape that? So like, what was the toughest question you faced like during your interview season? So that we will be prepared if we will get those questions. So we can
Well,
prepare.
one of the toughest question for me. So we have in state of Rhode Island, we have like two fellowship programs, and I did my away elective at Brown University. There's another community-based program, and the PD asked me, why didn't you choose our program to do an away elective? So
Okay.
that was kind of tricky question. I mean, so I mean, I replied very honestly that, my focus was malignant hematology, and that program doesn't have, that big of a service or, attendings. I mean, the way my mentor was able to connect me with someone at Brown was more easier in terms of convenience. But had I mean, if I had like another opportunity, I would definitely consider that program as well, because I would like to know about them as well, because I was applying in the same. I mean, I was prioritizing my area in general while applying. So these kind of questions, they'll try to gauge you that why you didn't do an away elective at our institution, and why did you choose another program in the same region.
So you got scared at first when they asked you, or you panicked or something? Was it visible on your face, or you just
No,
like?
I think I replied, directly. I mean, I didn't realize, to be honest. I mean, it was spontaneous. I didn't have to think about it, because I was considering that institution for a way elective. But then, given my own preference doing specifically malignant heme, I had to prioritize that need of my, my application. So.
Yeah, nice. Any weird questions for you, Lekha and Stephanie?
For me, I think two tricky questions that I wasn't prepared for was one of the community programs attendings asked me, well, you have so much research, you're coming into a community program, and you have a letter where your attendings speaks highly of you about how you led this project. You might not be able to do that, and how do you feel about it? What are you going to do here? And you maneuver it by saying that, no, this is what I want to do, being in your program. And I spoke about my quality improvement projects, which were more clinical. So I played along that way. And another question I was asked was, what are the skills? So I was the chief of patient safety and quality improvement in my program. So they asked me, you did this project using the Spanish, in a Spanish navigator project that I did. What skills, how are you going to use these skills for one of my clinical trials? And he gave me an example of what he was planning. And that was, that's something that requires presence of mind for you to come up with things quickly. So that was something I was asked. I was also asked funny stuff like, what kitchen appliance do you want to be? And there were so many options, and oh my God.
I don't know, but I was never asked these kind of questions. I wish I was asked.
Kitchen appliance.
Not kitchen
I was never
appliance, but
asked a kitchen
like
appliance
yeah.
question.
And
I
I
was asked
talked
some other
about a lot of
ones.
things, during Oppenheimer phase of because Oppenheimer had released, and I was talking about World War and how I was invested in it. So yeah, I mean, a lot of random things.
Right. And they also asked me about Barbie, and I hadn't watched Barbie, so I just played
Oh.
along like, oh, well, I did.
Gosh, I love it.
So they
Yeah.
were out of the box questions, right? So they do ask this out of the box questions.
Yeah.
Totally.
I'm trying to think. I want to say, like, for the most part, I didn't get anything egregious. I did get a few. New England is small. And I did get a few questions that were like, I worked at your institution and I literally hated it. Do you like it? And I'm just like, I mean, it was phrased a little bit differently, but like, how do you answer that? That's also, I'm not totally sure that's ACGME regulation on some interview. Some, and you try to, dodge a bullet, or you try to be very political about it, and that's okay. And that's kind of how I played it. And you have to, you really kind of have to. And I did. I played it. And I mean, I was asked that a few more times than I would have expected to have been asked. As I said, New England's very small. They know a lot of people and things like that. So, very interesting, which is very interesting. So, and you just kind of play to that. So anytime, like, it's small, so they might know somebody that you worked with, they might not like the other person you worked with or something like that. And it could, they could ask you some form of question of that, which I thought was interesting. I did have a very interesting experience where I live in East Providence, and the entire city lost power in the middle of my interview. And I was in one of a program I actually really liked, and I really was considering heading away there. I really wanted to go, and I logged into my phone. There was only one bar. I could barely hear anything. No one could hear anything I was saying. And I panicked because the entire city didn't have any power. And so I recovered very nicely. I went to the outpatient orthopedic center, in which I have a friend that's an orthopedic resident, and I begged them if I could use their Wi-Fi, and they gave me an entire conference room, and it was very kind and very nice because I have, as I said, I sit between two institutions. So they let me use their Wi-Fi. I stayed all day. They got me snacks. It was probably one of the best interview days ever because they were so kind to me. But don't panic if something like that happens. People understand, and they will reschedule your interview most times if something terrible happens. People get sick. I did one interview where I had no voice. I was just getting over laryngitis, and I had barely any voice. And they were like, "We're going to remember this squeaky voice that you have forever now." And so I told them, I don't normally sound like this. I'm coughing up phlegm. It's awful. So if things happen, it's going to be okay. We're human too. We get sick too. Things happen. So it's okay. And honestly, I just rolled with it, and it was okay, so.
One
Thank
of
you for
the Yeah, I would like to add something. So, since I'm from a community program, and I got a chance to do a elective at prominent institution. So, one of the faculties, he asked me this question that, what do you think about Memorial Sloan Kettering enrolling more patients even after first line, colon cancer, first line patient doesn't improve, and they'll enroll them in clinical trials. So they're like, what are your views about it? So, I I mean, I reacted very honestly, saying that, I mean, I'm yet to explore that, that area because I don't think I'm qualified enough to talk about it. I haven't seen a lot of patients. So I think he really liked it that, I was being honest. And, at our level, there'll be so many unknowns. And it's okay to accept, even if you had a rotation in solid onc or just heme, it's okay to just tell them that I'm not sure if I can answer this question. I don't have enough experience under my belt to answer effectively, so I'm indifferent to this. I mean, I don't have any opinion. That's fine.
So the bottom line is this: you have to be really honest. Don't make up the things and
Yeah.
don't lie about anything. Yeah, that's good. So we have a lot of residents who really want to ask you questions. So one of them is like Dharmik Patel. So you can ask your question, Dharmik.
Hey Sagar, this question's towards you since you are mentioning regarding the letter of recommendation and how you told your ICU attending some specific instances. So my question will be like, is there any limits that you can attach how many letters you can apply to the each program? And like, what would you like, what you did for yourself? Like, did you had like 3 HemeOnc letters and one either the intensivist later, or did you attach it to the different programs?
Yeah, so this is an important question. So personally, I did get 5 letter of recommendations. One extra letter just in case, if someone is not able to finish the LOR. So I think I had 1 letter from program director, one from my away elective, one from my ICU attending because I had done a lot of ICU and that attending knew me really well. And fourth one was from another like hospitalist, and the fifth one from my HemeOnc mentor at my home institution. So I mainly submitted 2 HemeOnc letters, one from my away elective, one from my home institution, one of my PDs, and one my APD/intensivist.
Thank you.
Okay. We have one more person who wants to ask a question. Is it Rishabh?
Yes. Yes. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I did ask this question on the chat, and Tulsi Pink Tulsi obviously also responded very quickly. And but the question for all of you is essentially like, so for the past 1 or 2 years, we've been through conferences, we've met so many people, we've reached out on Twitter, on email, on Zoom, met with so many mentors. In the run up to our application submissions and eventually asking them that question of, hey, would you recommend me for this fellowship or get me an interview? How does that look like? Like, is that an email that you send, or is it something you start building up from before over the couple months that you spend talking to them?
So personally, I think making contacts is great. Meeting people at conferences is great, but I don't think that necessarily sometimes translate into getting invites, because one thing is really important. Someone that doesn't know you that well, you haven't worked with them, you just know them socially. I don't think they'll be able to confidently recommend you. So, I mean, from my perspective, I didn't reach out to those people because I felt that, I don't think they'll be able to put a strong word for me because we haven't worked a lot. Maybe they cannot testify my abilities and, my work ethic. So it's better to, so let's say you are from a community program, you are doing a research collaboration, and someone that you have been working since last 1 year, 2 years, and naturally they'll be able to recommend your application at their home institution. So personally, I think having contacts is good. If you get a chance to work with someone, then that would be the right way. You work with them, you show them why you are interested and how motivated you are, and then they'll be able to recommend you.
Um, So, Rishabh, what I agree with Sagar. The people who recommend you, they need to have it's going to be a strong recommendation only if they've worked with you. They should have something to say about how they know you as a candidate and your work ethics. That being said, uh, I would say speak to all of these people, because sometimes just sharing your application and your personal statement with them will help you get a different perspective of how you can sell your story and package yourself as that candidate, which suits these in places where you're going to interview at. With some contacts, I would say stay in touch, because they would have graduated from programs that you have already received an interview, and they've probably worked with all of the attendings who are going to be your interviewers. So it's also going to help you get to know your interviewers better and do well on your interview, and what you should be, and gives you an idea of what you should be highlighting and speaking about.
I honestly, I echo that. I don't have much more to add. Having connections in, it doesn't not necessarily get you an interview, but when you are in an interview and you're like, oh, I worked with so and so that you had on this project and did this, that's really nice, because as I said, human connections, it's all about, that kind of aspect of things. Everyone likes to feel, like there's some sort of like, 6 degrees of separation. And it's honestly kind of awesome and amazing in so many ways, and so beautiful. And it's just so funny. Some of my attendings that watched me grow up in, at MGH, I told my interviewers, I'm like, I feel like they're like my dad now, because they've known me for almost like, 10, 15 years. And it's so funny because they're like, really? And it's so funny to, have that, come full circle. But, we're not talking about anything specific, nor did, that my mentor have to give a call or anything. We just kind of made that connection. So it's okay if they don't, having the connections will get you somewhere somehow. Even if you don't know how it got you there, you will, because you'll be able to like relate to a lot of other things, and things that you've seen. Oh, I met that so and so at a panel that I went to at ASCO, and things like that. So it's always good to keep that in your back pocket too.
I think one of the most important thing Lekha, mentioned is about having another perspective. So when you meet, active fellows and new fellows, they'll be able to give you some fresh perspective about your application, how you're approaching things in general, and it will be kind of informal mentoring that will happen during that brief duration when you're meeting them during the conference. So it's definitely helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's one more question. Does Step 3 scores and ITE scores matter while matching for the HemeOnc fellowship? I guess Tulsi already answered, but
I think the ITE matters in anesthesia. I think my friend was telling me that. I don't think it matters in IM, because those don't get released. I don't think Step 3 does. That being said, I wouldn't say I had like the most stellar scores ever. I was like average, and I also only took ComLex. I never took Step. So be that as you will. I'm a DO. I only took those. I think now they're mainly pass fail, so I don't even know how much they're anywhere in that. So I don't know. I think I would say those are towards the more bottom part of the application versus the top. But I know in anesthesia, I'm pretty sure the IT exams matter.
I think some programs do have, some specific filters. Not sure. Maybe, top 5% programs might have some filter, but otherwise, I think 95%, 90% programs, as far as you have passed the steps, I don't think they, take it at any regard. Yeah.
Anybody have any questions?
One thing that I don't know, I didn't know this was a thing, and so I actually did it, and no one told me this. I just did it my own. So I don't know if this is going to help for anybody. So when I submit an application for, I guess I'm not sure if IMGs have this, but the DOs and MDs have the MSPE letter, and so when you submit it for residency initially, it's going to have your third year and like a few months of your fourth year. My medical school actually asked me, do you want us to finish and do you want us to addend it and put your entire fourth year in? So both your third year and your fourth year go in your MSPE letter. We'll addend it as an attachment, and then we'll send it out for your fellowship. And I said, yes. It took a few extra days maybe for them to do it because the dean had to do it and get verified. That being said, I requested early, so it wasn't a big deal for them. But I don't know if a lot of people know that you can do that. And I don't know if a lot of med schools do that for people. But I had asked that. So both my third and my fourth year actually went into my MSPE letter, and it went when I uploaded it onto, or when they sent it in for Eris. So I don't know if that's helpful to anybody or if it did anything, but I thought it was interesting and I thought it might be helpful for others.
Sounds good. Thank you, Stephanie. So Henry Roberto, you have a question?
Yes, first of all, thank you, Lekha, Stephanie, and Sagar, for this fantastic experience to meet you guys. It's very eye-opening, and thank you for giving us your time for this great advices. I have a basic question, so I was wondering if you could please help me to know how to prepare the personal statement. I'm struggling. I struggled in the preparation for the residency, and I would like advices in this regard. Thank you.
So hi, Henry. So I think it's very unique for every person. The approach I took was that I knew that I had to structure my personal statement in a certain way, and my cutoff and what I wanted to do was draw a correlation between internal medicine to HemeOnc, and that's what I focused on, and anything related to oncology that I did before. So I just sat down, like Sagar said, go to a quiet place, a park, and just sit down and jot down everything, all the reasons why you like oncology, why you want to go there, all your personal experiences, as many as you want. And then you can eventually pick the experiences that you feel are deserving to go on to your personal statement. And they will also give you an idea about what about these experiences made you want oncology, right? Speak about your research and any advocacy roles that you played that would be that would speak about your skills as well as as some of the things that you bring to a program. That's my suggestion.
Thank you.
So I would like to add something. So, personally, I, kind of read some sample personal statements, and then, I kind of created a template for myself. So I divided the personal statement in like 4 paragraphs. Generally, it is advised that, you try to keep it within 1 page, so it's easy to read. The first paragraph I included was about, how I got interested in HemeOnc. So, under that topic, you can create first paragraph. It can include any anecdotal story that you might have, and how your interest started. Second was my patient encounter. Any of the interesting case you can mention. So for me, there was an impactful case, a patient with PNH, and how we did the workup and everything. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear
Yes.
you.
Okay. So yeah, second paragraph, as I was mentioning, was about a patient interaction and a particular case that, gravitated me towards hematology. And third paragraph was mainly about research/scholarly activities. And fourth and final, there was about like my future goals. So you want to talk about your past, you want to talk about your present, and, where do you see yourself in next 5-10 years? So that's how I, created my personal statement.
Thank you, Sagar.
Okay, we have one more person. I hope I'm just saying it right. Umul Asfi.
Yeah, that's me. So, hi everybody. Good evening. Thank you so much for taking time to speak to us. And I just wanted to get an idea. ASCO is coming up. So, how do you make the best out of that opportunity?
I just have one suggestion: go to trainee lounge and have free coffee. hang out with people, and yeah, just meet everyone.
I would sign up for the mentors ahead of time, and they will come out. That will come out before, and that way you'll be able to have like one-on-one mentors with certain people, and they'll be able to help you. You can bring your CV, have them look at it, things like that can help you, make additional connections and all that kind of stuff. And as Sagar said, go to the trainee lounge and attend to the things that you want to attend, and guided poster tours, things like that, and also have fun because it's honestly very, very cool and it's amazing.
Thank you.
I also think there is women in oncology. There's another lounge, so that's a great place as well to find mentors and meet them. There are a lot of group sessions, so keep an eye
We were in a
out.
group session together, weren't we?
Right, I know.
Yes.
Everyone's so familiar.
I know. It was. I think it was like one of the last days. We had the women in oncology, and we were in that
Yes.
circle. Yes, yeah, and it was phenomenal. And they you can ask them any questions, and you meet people from everywhere, like the FDA, like all these, and also from people in multiple different careers, whether you're a physician, scientist, a clinical trialist, if you want to work for the FDA after HemeOnc fellowship, things like that, because you don't have to do just one thing. And some people are like, that's amazing. Sure, I want to do that instead. So it's nice because if you're thinking about like, oh, maybe I want to do just like pharma, or if I want to do like FDA, I don't want to do just, patients or something. You can talk to these people and get kind of firsthand experience of what you want to do. So don't limit yourself. The world's our oyster. So whatever you want, if you think you might want something, talk to somebody, because I'm sure somebody has had some experience in that area, which has been really nice.
Nice. We have one more person. I think this will be our last question. I hope I'm saying the right name. It's Didiptia. It's DB.
Hey,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Cool.
my name. This is the most
I'm
complicated
sorry.
name. Hi, I wanted to direct a question to all three of you. Thank you, Lekha, Sagar, and Stephanie. This has been very enlightening. My question is more like back to the research question, kind of. Specifically, especially in like taking IMGs into perspective, we kind of just move straight out of medical school to residency, or very limited research opportunities in the middle, at least for me. Is there any course that you pursued during residency, or anything that you were able to do on the side to understand your or like improve your understanding of, say, statistics or epidemiology, or anything that helps us do better research?
So hi, Didipia. So I think I can resonate with you. Being an IMG, I didn't have a lot of exposure. So I did subscribe to a course for clinical research, but I didn't have any time to even go through videos or the material whatsoever. So I think I started with case reports, as everyone mentioned. So pick a case, try to write it up, submit an abstract. For data, there's a prominent faculty at UCSF known Vinay Prasad. So he has some YouTube videos about, how to interpret data. He does, break down some trials, some latest, studies. He would dissect journal articles from New England Journal of Medicine, JAMA articles. So that kind of primed my base personally when I started looking to this area. And then the easiest things that I think is learning about like SEER database. It doesn't take a lot of time. You can spend like 2 or 3 weekends. You can develop those skills of how to stratify data, how to collect the data, and the SEER stats software. It's pretty easy. And you can always collaborate with any of the biostatistician that might be working at your institution. You can get library support from your university program or something like that. There are a few videos on YouTube as well, how to navigate through SEER database, NIS, National Inpatient Sample Database. And there's something called as FDA Adverse Event Reporting System, FAERS. So you can pick a new drug, any new drug, first generation, second generation. You compare the side effect, and it's pretty interactive, platform. So I would say, trial and error will lead you through this, complex path, and you'll be able to achieve something.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Thank you.
I think, like honestly, even like I worked in clinical trials before, so like I had a lot of knowledge because I actually was doing the clinical trial. Is that most people like don't know that kind of stuff. Like my half of my co-residents have no idea what I'm talking about when I like present in journal club. So because they're like, wait, like, and it's funny because there's a lot of stuff that like I kind of know like the back end of things because I was kind of doing it. Like I did the violations, I helped grading, and putting the data sets in. So like I kind of had a little bit more of like a back end, and most people don't have that. So I want to say like I wouldn't worry like so much about that. Sometimes though, I think it's helpful to be like on a journal club. Like we have journal club at my residency, but I know some like there's like Twitter journal clubs and like other journal clubs that like, the American Medical Women's Association, I think has a journal, like other journal clubs from like other, societies do, I think are very helpful. So if you find one and they're usually like monthly or every like quarter or whatever, I think that might be helpful because they're dissecting it kind of for you. And then it kind of gets you in a routine or to know what you're looking for and what to look for. And sometimes I think it's helpful to go through it with someone else, maybe at more of like a higher level. I always found that like when I attended journal club and grand rounds, other institutions where, the attendings were the one going through it, not just us. I'd always found that very helpful for me as well too.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's also like really helpful because probably that like guided way of looking at research definitely would change your perspective. So that's helpful. Thank you.
All right, guys, we're spilling over a little bit over time. I have 4 more guests, and after that, we're wrapping the meeting. So Rishabh, Lam, Stanley, and Dipriya. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Stanley, you can ask your question.
Yeah, I think mine
Okay.
was
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Let's go,
Uh,
Stanley.
Stanley, please, can you ask your
Okay.
question?
All right. Okay. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity, and thank you for the insightful information, and appreciate your time. So I wanted to find out. Like from take my scenario for example in a community program. So I am supposed to go to a university program for an elective, a way elective, just more of like increasing my visibility. So I wanted to find out what you would advise. One, I focus on like to I mean, I don't know anybody there. I'm just randomly going there new. So just to and it is a program I would also want to match in. So like how would you, advise me to approach the elective? And again, I don't know, am I supposed to reach out to some, because I don't know who to reach out to, maybe some potential letter writer and stuff like that. So I'm just a bit, not sure on this.
Hi, Stanley. So, what I did was, before you go in, uh, this is understanding that you already have the elective schedule, right? Figure out what the schedule is and try to find out who the attendings are and if they're working 7 on, 7 off. Is it an outpatient setting or an inpatient setting? For me, I did it in BMT. I tried to make the most of every opportunity I had at that point. So I was working inpatient as well as seeing patients for my attending in the clinic. I would say these 4 weeks, you would be able to gauge based on how your attendings are and offer to present cases, work closely with the fellows, offer to help them out with the notes. I would say this is the approach I took. I also asked if I could discuss any interesting papers or have a presentation for the team. Uh, During morning rounds, you could offer to do that as well. And on the first day, when you have a new attending, I would go and ask them and tell them that you're hoping to get a letter by the end of this elective, and what are their expectations, right? And find out from the fellows as to what what the attending's expectations are, so that you could meet. And also start off by asking for advice on how to go about this process. If you didn't get a chance to work with the program director, so I did my elective at University of Maryland. I ensured that on the last day, I got to meet with the PD and I expressed my interest in the program and spoke about how my experience during the 4 weeks were, which was helpful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lekha, for your input. Rishabh, you have one more question to ask?
That was by mistake. My bad.
Okay, no problem. Anybody else wants to ask any questions? Because we are just wrapping up. Okay. Okay, I think we are done with the questions.
Thank you,
Thank you.
guys. I just wanted to give a brief update. This is one of the biggest turnout events. We had 60 people turning in. That's amazing turnout. So thank you for your valuable time, your precious advice. And I've recorded this event, so I will share the link shortly as soon as it finishes the review. So I couldn't be more thankful for you guys to join us because the way you've given advice it's wonderful. Thank you all for joining us tonight for home.
Thank you for
so
making the time,
much.
Thank you,
guys.
Tulsi. Thank you, Supriya.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Sagar. Thank you, Lekha, for giving the time.
Good to see you guys.
Thank
See
you,
you
Bye-bye.
Guys, for joining
everyone.
us.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.